What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. Well, if you don't like charging your phone every single day, I may have the solution for you. This right here, it's a very cheap phone called the Cubot H3 that has a massive 6000 mAh battery. So with this phone you can go for about 2 days without charging the phone, and out of that over 13 hours of screen on time, which is just insane for any phone in any price range. And talking about price, this phone costs about $110. For that $110 you also get a MediaTek 6737 CPU. This is a quad-core CPU. We have 3 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of internal storage. Out of that 32 gigs of internal storage we only have about 26 left, but luckily you can install an SD card as internal storage. And talking about that SD card, the back of the phone is made out of plastic and it's also removable. So if you remove the plastic back, you have access to the 2 SIM card slots and the slot for the SD card. The battery is non-removable. We also have a fingerprint scanner and 2 cameras on the back there. One of the cameras is a 0.3 megapixel sensor and the other one is a 13 megapixel sensor. The fingerprint scanner works great, but as we've seen in the past with a lot of other cheaper Chinese devices, is not the fastest, so unlocking the phone takes about a second after you touch the fingerprint scanner. Even though we have 2 cameras on the back of this phone, as we've seen in the past, one of them is useless. So if you're gonna take pictures with that cool looking bokeh effect, well, the pictures don't look that great. The phone just makes a circle in the middle and everything outside of that circle it's blurred out and everything in the circle it's clear. So the pictures don't look that great with that bokeh effect. There is also an HDR mode, and the HDR mode actually works better than I was expecting and better than a lot of other phones that I've seen in this price range. As for the pictures that you're gonna take on auto mode, well, they look okay, but definitely not the best that I've seen. So if you have plenty of light, the pictures are acceptable and you can basically use them for social media or anything like that. But as soon as you don't have enough light, well, the pictures become quite grainy and blurry. But once again, that's normal for this price range. As for the pictures that you're gonna take with a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, well, once again, if you have plenty of light, the pictures do turn out quite good and quite crispy, but as soon as you don't have enough light, they become kind of grainy and blurry. But again, for this price, I think the pictures are acceptable. Moving back to the phone's physical appearance, so the frame is also made out of plastic and it makes the phone feel a bit cheap. You're gonna find the power button and the volume keys on the right hand side, and on top we have the micro USB charging port and the 3.5mm audio jack. The phone supports OTG as well, but charging the phone from 0 to 100 is done in about 4 hours and a half, so be prepared to leave the phone sitting there for quite some time. As for the sound coming out of that 3.5mm audio jack, well, it's loud but it lacks bass, so not the best sound that I've heard, but what can I say, the phone is very cheap. And lastly, moving all the way to the bottom of the device, there we have the microphone and the speaker, and unfortunately the speaker doesn't sound that amazing, but here is a quick sample of how the speaker sounds.
Searching for a longer day. People feeling like the light has just come. We must never stop.
And moving to the front of the device, there we have a 5-inch screen with a 720p resolution. Now, considering that the screen is quite small, that 720p resolution it's good enough in my opinion. Unfortunately, we have rather large bezels all around the screen, and that makes the phone a bit too big for my taste. The colors on the screen are great, but the viewing angles aren't the best that I've seen, and also the screen's brightness. I mean, if you're gonna go outside and it's very bright, it's gonna be a bit difficult to see the screen. As for sensitivity, you can touch the screen in 5 places in the same time and the screen will register, and I haven't really had any issues whenever I was typing, playing games, or pretty much anything that I was doing on the screen. Moving on to performance, well, first of all, that MediaTek 6737 is not a powerhouse, so the scores that you're gonna get on the Antutu benchmark and the Geekbench 4 aren't gonna be that high. However, since we have Android 7 and the software is very well optimized for this device, the phone actually feels quite speedy. As always with this CPU, it's gonna take you a bit longer to open apps, but once an app is open, you shouldn't really have any issue. So for example, if you're gonna use Facebook does work quite good. I mean, there is a bit of lag here and there, but for a phone that costs about $110, I think it's good enough. Other apps like Chrome work decent as well, but once again you're gonna have to wait a few seconds till the app loads. But once the app is loaded, you can zoom in, zoom out, scroll up, scroll down, pretty much do anything that you do with a much more expensive phone, and it does perform okay. On the YouTube app, the maximum resolution that you can select is 720p, and all the videos that I watched at that resolution did perform quite well, but I wasn't really expecting anything considering that the resolution is only 720p. You can even do some gaming with this phone, but don't imagine for a second that this phone was actually designed for gaming. So most games that you're gonna download from the Google Play Store will do okay as long as you don't have crazy expectations. But again, you're gonna see some skipped frames here and there. Other than that, the UI is very close to stock Android, and that's great because if we would have any skins on this device, it would slow down the phone quite a lot. Of course, you have access to all the features of Android 7, so for example, the split screen, and everything does work pretty good for a phone in this price range. As for the GPS unit inside this phone, well, it's definitely not the best that I tried, so it takes quite a while to actually find your location, and once your location is found, depending where you are, it will lose your location. So if you're driving, you're gonna see the map spinning left, right, because the phone kind of loses the location. As for sensors, well, we don't really have that many sensors, and we don't have a gyroscope either. As for connectivity, the phone can connect to 4G networks, but we don't get dual band Wi-Fi, and that means that you can only connect to the 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi bands. As for the speaker on top here, well, it gets loud enough for most situations, but it would have been nice to see it just a tiny bit louder. As for the speeds over Wi-Fi and the 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi bands, they're appropriate for a phone in this price range. So to conclude this video, if you're looking for a somewhat cheap phone that you don't have to charge every single day, this could be a good option, but only if you're not a heavy user, because if you plan on playing a lot of games on this may not be the best phone for you. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.